Alright, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament, where we are playing Phlegra. It is turn 58. We're going to be trying to hop on one of Atlantis' mages. And we've got a few other raids going on. We finished research, construction 7. Ooh, didn't queue up anything else. That is not ideal. We'll have to fix that. Doing a little bit of arcane probing, not finding anything. Teleporting out our attackers. We get mentally attacked by a mage, where Cyclops is killed. We did not hand out an amulet to him. We probably should forge some more for those guys. And then we have our magic phase attack. So we'll see how much Atlantis didn't really choose to PD dump, which is interesting. I guess they were figuring that, we weren't likely to do something like this, but we did. So for this situation, arrows, province defense actually matters quite a bit. So we have a fellow here that should be soul slaying. We have another fellow that's going to make some air elementals, and then we have a fellow that's making some of our Sparte, however you call these summons, our undead skeletal. Actually, they're not undead; they're magic beings, skeletal warriors. And they're going to be up against a bunch of undead. So yeah, and this guy is pretty good at skelly spam, and we're not going to be able to generate any more chaff. Pretty much what you see here is what we've got. So yeah, hopefully the soul slays, right? This is really designed. Yeah, there we go. Soul slay went through. So this works out for us. But there could be a normal phase attack coming. We did move some stuff out to support them, so hopefully that'll all go fine. We find a death site. We are trying to do a little bit of death site searching with our tyrants, which kind of sucks, right? Because they, eat the population, cause a lot of unrest, but it would be nice to get some death gems. We also managed to find a water site, trying to do a little more water site searching. So nice that those worked out. And then let's see, Atlantis raids us in location. We don't have an answer here. Okay, that's just a scout ping. So just taking a look. Very active with their scout pings, which I do approve of. That's pretty good. But we do at least hold on to that. And then let's see. I'm not sure what attack this is. Oh, right. This is us jumping on top of a fortification. Look, there's no defense here. We'll see if we hang out. This is not a super strong force. We're at least safe from mind hunters, more or less. But yeah, that's not going to stop like a really serious attack. Yeah, I was still somewhat hoping that, Atlantis would choose to cool it a little bit with the fighting, since they have another enemy coming in. But I guess they're of the school, they feel that, well, if you're not going to run acceptable diplomacy, then, we're gonna fight hard. Which is fine, it is what it is. I think that, the 3v1 is going to be, I think, more beneficial for us. We don't have a defense here. So yeah, Atlantis fighting hard. Yeah, forgiving father. No gems or anything, though. This is definitely a group that we can beat. And a nice little raiding squad. Yeah, some body ethereal. Like if we dumped province defense, this wouldn't have worked. They would have run over quite a bit of province defense, I think. So this is gonna be kind of an annoying group to get rid of. And this is a place that they pinged, beforehand. We lose that obviously, and then we lose. I'm not sure what province this is. Somewhere we didn't put province defense, I guess. And then we witness a raid by Atlantis against Ulm. So, looks like they're going all in. Ulm has not backed out of the war either. I'm not particularly surprised by that. And Atlantis was saying, I'm in peace talks with Ulm, which is true, right? I'd also been in contact with Ulm. But, it didn't really sound like they were coming to an agreement, which is not how Atlantis characterized it, which is totally understandable. You always try to put your best foot forward in diplomacy. It's not like he was lying or anything. He was indeed in peace talks. He just perhaps mischaracterized the nature of how likely they were to be successful. It was very interesting, pinging pretty much before every attack. This is the actual throne itself. We're hoping maybe someday to build a fort here, but realistically, I don't think we're going to have the funds. We're going to have to cut a tyrant production. And I want to hold off, until the situation with Atlantis is a little more secure, right? So probably try to build that fort in the middle of the Utgard-Atlantis war, where Atlantis is going to be a bit more on the back foot. And then, okay. Yeah, this is our air elemental. I forgot that this squad had so many mages in it. So we have a lot a lot of barbarians, and we have our prophet, and we're making some air elementals, but looking at this now, I am less sure of this. Yeah, so there's the air elemental. Hopefully we have a second air elemental. Nope, I think just the one. We don't get the mage, it looks like. And it looks like we're going to lose the throne mage here, probably because he's asleep. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So we don't get the mage. Oh, he almost routes off. So that group is badly damaged. Probably won't be able to do a ton more raiding, but we do lose a throne mage, and that he also had flying shoes on him, so that's pretty rough. It looks like our prophet does survive, so that's something. But yeah, overall the raiding situation didn't go great for us this turn. We do find, yes, the monster boar, thank heavens. This is actually a fairly valuable province, so that monster boar was causing a lot of problems. And then we also managed to find a scout from Marignan, which not too relevant. And then, of course, this is the fort that, we don't actually have any siege strength on top of, a little bit of patrolling, and I'll catch you guys after the jump.
All right, this was the situation and what we were doing about it. And since this was quite a while ago, I can't be 100% certain, but this certainly feels to me like we're in a bit of a holding pattern, waiting for Utgard to launch their attack. It is also in the middle of winter, and of course we are extremely worried about murdering winter. It didn't happen, but we know that Atlantis has the research for it, and that they probably have the water income for it. So the idea of moving our squishy mage stack back onto one of Atlantis's forts in the middle of winter is not very appealing. Now, of course, with their cold scales, we're always going to have to work to warm things up. We're also just trying to build up a bit of a fire gem bank. We were pretty much out a few turns ago. We're up to 38 now, so starting to get back to a place where we can actually support warming a location up for a few turns. We are doing some raids and counter raiding. Most of stuff that we've seen before. I would say the one major difference is we now finally have Mind Hunt protection on these guys. So we've made some Shade Mails, and we are sneaking around some Astral Mages with our Tyrant groups. This is definitely the most effective way to block mind hunting, but it is pretty painful, right? They're essentially using an expensive and powerful throne mage as a gem carrier, which is not exactly my happy place. So it's not ideal. It'd be nice if we had some cheaper astral mages. In retrospect, probably actually should have used one of these sorceresses. They're slightly cheaper, but still it's going to be kind of painful in general. But not as painful as losing tyrants. So you can see we are forging another Shade Mail. I think we have another group in the north here. Yeah, in this case, we just have some Astral Mages moving out with this group. Kind of some groups that are all over the place. So that should be interesting at least. We're even using our Wailing Winds caster as a counter raiding. I'm not really sure what this fellow is going to be doing. Potentially just site searching, I guess. I suppose also we don't really, unrest 60. That's, it's been a little while since I've played Phlegra. And I was right, you can't stand still with these tyrants, at least not anywhere valuable. I was why are we moving him out to this random waste? Oh yeah, parking. So yeah, this should be a much more valuable province. Hopefully we'll be able to control this unrest once we get the tyrants out in the coming turns. Also, one of our tyrants has gone insane this turn, as happens. At least he's researching. Definitely one of the more useful results from Insanity. And then speaking of tyrants, we are cutting recruitment this turn, and we're recruiting an Oppressor Archon instead, which is painful, but yeah, a tyrant takes probably over half of our money at this point, because this income to upkeep ratio doesn't really capture the gold that you're losing from unrest. So we're actually getting less gold here than it looks. And even if we were getting this amount of gold, they're still taking about half of our income. So always sad to be skipping Tyrant recruitment, but we've been talking about it for a little while and finally got to the point, I guess, where it's okay, it needs to happen. We are skipping some mage recruitment in places already. I don't think, there's a Throne Mage, right? They're also pretty expensive, 230 gold for these guys. They're really effective mages, though, and slow to recruit, so it's painful to be skipping recruitment of them as well. So anyway, that's what we're up to, trying to block raids, raid a few territories back, but, not looking to make any major moves just yet. In terms of what other people are up to, our scouting network is not as great as it could be. We do at least have eyes on most of the thrones, but otherwise, we're not really seeing a lot of movement in the game state in general. I will say this room was much better than my average experience in terms of patrolling, so I had to be very careful with where I was moving scouts around too. We do have quite a few scouts in Utgard's territory. We're most interested in what they're up to, especially since we're expecting them to attack Atlantis soon. We do see a major stack, probably the major stack here. So not exactly on the border with Atlantis yet, but not too far off. We also see a stack of undead here, though this could be a blood hunting operation. Atlantis, of course, still fighting us quite hard. We are pulling off this fort that we were sitting on top of theirs because there is a stack next door, and we've seen how our tyrants do against the stacks. Not so well so far. So I definitely think that's wise. We are also moving our Yetis up and a few other random things in case that this stack chooses to push at us. Definitely want to hold on to this throne if we can. But if Atlantis chooses to combine everything, that could be challenging, though that does open up possibilities for Raga. Otherwise, again, the war is pretty stalematey. The lines just haven't really moved all that much between myself and Atlantis and between Atlantis and Ulm. We did at least mostly correct the research issue, so we are researching Conjuration 7. This is probably at least partially because we accidentally dumped a bunch of research into that school. So we might as well put that to good use. I will say that I think Conjuration 7 is a useful level for us. We can definitely benefit from the living spells just because you get more effects the greater your level of magic path is, which means that if you can build really large communions, you can really take advantage of these spells. I also wouldn't mind a couple Ivy Kings because we don't really have an easy way to access high nature. We have decently high nature on our Pretender. We did find those enchanters. But Ivy Kings I find are pretty useful chassis, though don't really have the nature gems for this right now. Wraith Lords are also cool, but probably out of reach, certainly in the short term, not a path we can reach yet. Then we've got some Thaumaturgy queued up, I'm assuming for Enslaved Mind, though in retrospect probably would have shifted that. And then Enchantment 7 and 8, I think always just a generic good pickup. Enchantment 7 probably should have prioritized this a little bit more for Serpent's Blessing. And then, Enchantment 8 is just nice to have the Fens, but not strictly necessary. Mass Regeneration, also something that Ivy King could cast for us. Not great on Phlegra, on late age Phlegra, because regeneration on human troops is not fantastic, but certainly not something our armies would mind. I think that more or less covers turn 58. All right, welcome back to Game 10 of Lucid's 2022 tournament, where we were playing Phlegra. It was turn 59. And the raiding with Atlantis continues, and so do the magic phase attacks. Yeah, and it looks like we're trying to warm up that throne province, so we are planning on trying to hold this. That makes sense. And then here come the undead polar bears. This is the problem, right? This is our group. It's just the one mage. Ooh, nice. He hit the tyrant. But we have a couple mages here trying to support this tyrant. And so, Atlantis is trying to pick them off. But there's one nice thing, at least, about tyrants. Do complain about them a good amount, but it's pretty hard to pick off tyrants with almost any kind of remote assassination spell. So that one works out for us. And then we got hit with a Mind Hunt. Of course, it's always the cheap mages that resist. So the Shackled Mage resists. I think we just had a Cyclops that went down, but still, always happy to see enemy Mind Hunts fail. Hopefully this will be a thing of the past as we start to get those stealthy Astral Mages in to block these attempts. And then we have another polar bear, undead polar bear, coming after us. At least I'm assuming that's what these guys are. And probably, it's a mage. And our expensive mage. So this is rough. I don't know. It's hard to say, right? Giving this guy bodyguards would definitely help. He gets ganked immediately. Not that surprising. We do lose some gear and some gems there, and of course he's a slow to recruit capital only mage, so that's pretty painful. But of course the problem with bodyguards is he's going to have to always be retreating, right? He's there to lay some buffs on our tyrant, so there are route concerns with the more hit points that you bring onto the field, and then have retreat off, and then those bodyguards will probably scatter, and pluses and minuses, but definitely this is not a good result for us. I forgot to mention, we are trying to do a little bit of reanimation. It is painful to have our tyrant sit around and reanimate. Probably should have made, there's a low-level death mage whose name escapes me, but would have been better to summon one of those in and have that do the reanimation, though of course that does cost death gems, and we don't have a ton of those. So anyway, for now, one of our tyrants is reanimating. This is for siege strength to go underwater. We have another shackled mage get mentally attacked, and he was killed. This is what I get for complaining about the previous one resisting. Do a little bit of site searching, doesn't work out. We witness Marignon cleaning out some independence, potentially a throne. Yeah, this is looking like a thug. Been given a ring of water breathing, which is interesting. But otherwise, shock resistance, cold resistance, and some armor. So pretty light. Going for Soul Vortex. This does look like a throne. Okay, nice. They've been doing some assassinating. Yeah, Marignon does get some assassinations. Nice. Wow. I thought there was a tyrant on this throne. I'll have to go double check. I suppose lifelong protections are pretty powerful. So yeah, he didn't have to worry about his thug's kit too much because no commanders there. So that's nicely done. And then let's see, we get raided by Atlantis. Looks like we're mostly on the defensive here. I do think we were moving some... this is another ping. I thought, didn't Atlantis just ping this? So maybe they're just looking to see, right? They want to see what the response is. Or perhaps just a misclick. Those happen too sometimes, not just to me. So here we have Ulm bringing a bunch of wolves and friend. I hope there's not a lot of province defense here because wolves are not very good, but lo and behold, there is only one province defense here, so this will probably work out. Indeed, the wolves actually only take one loss and then take a province off. Very nice. That is very budget rating. Definitely worth tailoring your rating in terms of, you know, your opponent's level of province defense investment and just defense in general. Speaking of budget rating, we've seen groups like this before, and just one province defense. I think this is ours. Yeah, so we lose a province there. Then we have an undefended province. Oh, right, of course. This is the fort that we jumped off of. That's expected. And then we have a couple of raids where we're on the offensive, so that's nice to see some of those. Well, raids, I mean, they are raids. Raiding with 2 tyrants is less than ideal, and there's only one province defense here, so we'll definitely come away with that. Though I imagine these are locations that potentially Atlantis could have reinforced, right? We're less concerned, like, yeah, we got all kinds of research that we're wasting here, and just one province defense. But, like, again, this is somewhat driven by the fact that, you know, we get jumped on and stuff, worried about Atlantis' responses and what they might bring in. But probably could have cut a few mages out of this crew. Then we have some unexpected events. Okay, well, this one isn't unexpected. This is us trying to warm up this province. Are barbarians really ever unexpected in Misfortune 3? Regardless, they have a well-planned attack against one of our farmlands. And then bad omens, but of course we're already Misfortune 3, so we don't care about those. But we do care about this barbarian attack. I don't think we have a lot of province defense here, and yeah, this is definitely not going to work out for us. We do at least have a fort there, so you know we're going to split the income with the barbarians for now. And indeed, we kill almost no barbarians. And then we lose a scout in a location, probably worth taking a look. This is Atlantis' army that's defending I think a throne that's quite close to their lake that's really more focused against Ulm. So yeah, quite substantial and is patrolling, but nothing that we haven't seen before, right? Some Green Lions, a lot of the troops that we've seen Atlantis using, Forgiving Fathers, some of their cap-onlys. A powerful army, hopefully it remains focused on Ulm. And of course, the barbarians have us under siege. We have some patrols, and I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this was the situation and what we did about it. Looks like we are pulling out from the Throne Province, but at least just temporarily, because we are casting Breath of the Desert there, so we're trying to warm it up. We can see that our last attempt, it is still winter, so it only moved the temperature scales 1. Cold 2, not ideal for us to fight in. Also, we don't quite have everything ready to go and can reach that province anyway. And it'd be nice to rid ourselves of these barbarians. So we're going to Flaming Arrows these fellows, unlock our fortification, potentially have to make a hold here where we do have some province defense from an earlier dump. If Atlantis chooses to push forward after recapturing the throne and, you know, maybe try to come after our capital. You know, it'd be great if we could fight a defensive battle in heat temperature. But, you know, even if they don't, like 1 or 2 more casts of this, especially as it starts to move into spring, will hopefully move the temperature back in our favor, and maybe we can actually win a fight here on top of this throne. We'll see. We don't really have much in the way of an actual army. Right? We have a couple Yetis, a bunch of the really crappy short bows, and 2 tyrants, and some mage support. So we're really going to be relying on the mages, I think, you know, to bring in summons and things like that. And our tyrants to do a lot of heavy lifting. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Speaking of dicey, we have something quite interesting brewing here near Raga. I have to be honest, I can't really explain this. The good news is next turn the live narration will pick back up, so hopefully Pastor Janus can explain this to you. because I can't really. I will say this is more along the lines of something that I wanted to move into, right? So we are trying to rely here on our summons as kind of more of a front line, but we don't really have the stuff here. So this seems pretty dangerous, but we are stacking a lot of tyrants, so that's good, I guess. We do have friends here to buff them up, but this is pretty scary considering Atlantis has a pretty large army next door. And we're not moving our army in yet, but like I said, I do think that's intentional. We are pretty worried about murdering Winter, and I do think that I wanted to get to a place where we could start to lead a little bit more with more of our casters and our summons. I do think it'd be nice if we'd been able to mix Firestorm into this army, which we do have the research for, but I don't think we really have the items to give to our mages that are trying to cast buffs on our friends, our tyrants, who really are probably no one's friends. But in retrospect, we probably could have gotten away with it. The cast time on that spell is fairly long, and it's not like it's an instant kill. So if we have those mages retreat off, we probably could get away with not forging them fire protection gear. It does make an already kind of dicey strategy with expensive mages even more dicey, but probably still worth it, if it was going to help us beat this Atlantean stack. But we don't have that. We just have a moderate level of province defense investment. Some summons on our tyrants, so we'll see if Atlantis bites, and we'll see if we'll be able to hold if they do. We are doing some troop recruitment this turn. We're recruiting infantry back at the capital and nearby to defend against this possible Atlantean push, and then try to recapture this throne that I'm assuming we're going to lose next turn. And then we're also doing some recruitment fairly close to Raga, also back to infantry. We've talked a lot about, not really even sure what to recruit. So we're going with infantry for the moment. And then we have an air elemental group, another just kind of a strange one, and they're raiding this province. This is probably just because we don't want it to fall into Utgard's hands. There is a pretty useful independent mage here, though I'll say Nature 2 I don't think is that important for Utgard, but maybe some cross paths they would like. I don't think they get a lot of fire, so this is a pretty solid mage, if a little on the expensive side. In the future, if we ever have money, I don't know if we'd ever want to build a fort here. I don't think this is a very good province, but maybe throw a lab up and get a few out. Though we do have pretty good elemental access, and those enchanters that we found kind of solve some of our nature problems, so maybe not worth it in this case. We do see a few more things on the border here between Utgard and Atlantis. There is a Scrotty here, probably a thug since he's just solo rather than a blood hunter. And then we just see a group of these Jotun wolves. So not really sure what this is. Maybe just a light raiding squad. We are going to try and keep an eye on this border and see when that kicks off. Hopefully time one of our pushes for when Atlantis is under a lot more pressure. Otherwise, I can't really detect any change in the world state, which is a little concerning in terms of Mictlan, right? Like Veti is gone and buried now. So, we know that Marignon is not occupied, and neither is Mictlan. We're not really worried about Marignon since we don't share a border with them. But, we've talked in the past, like Mictlan, could be a problem. Probably should have more scouts in their territory, though they have been doing a good amount of blood hunting. We can't see one of their blood slaves here. Ananqui? Whatever, he's a giant Batman. I'm not talking about the one that saves Gotham City. So we see one of those on our border. So yeah, there's a lot of blood hunting going on in here. Definitely have lost some scouts trying to scout Mictlan's territory. So hopefully Mictlan will get involved in something that's not us in the not too distant future. It'd be fantastic actually if they fought Marignon. That'd be great, right? Two large blood powers fighting each other. But we'll see. So yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 59.